2. But futures look good here as we're on pace to erase a lot of the damage that was done earlier in the week. Let's get to the opening bell. The S&P 500 down here at the big board today. It is celebrating an IPO. Innovus Bio focused on the treatment of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. At the NASDAQ, it's Wrap Therapeutics, targeting unmet needs in oncology and inflammatory diseases. So Boeing's going to help.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I think that we saw a Boeing that basically said, you know, we're doing everything we can, and when the authorities say that we're good, it's going to fly, as opposed to it's ready. It didn't hear that. Didn't hear it's ready. We heard that, look, we're taking some charges. We're going to have to take charges for them being offline. I was very gratified to hear that no one said, you know what, we don't need this plane. The level of confidence that the airlines themselves have demonstrated by that. So I think it's kind of, I don't want to say it takes the debt issue off the table, but you sure feel better about the balance sheet is the way I look at it. That's what I think is going on with the stock.
Boeing. Worth mentioning GE as we get started here with trading. The stock is up almost 8%.
Yeah.
Over, approaching $13 a share after numbers that are being well received. As you might expect, total orders $24.9 billion for the fourth quarter of 19. Revenues $26.2 billion. The industrial profit margin, GAAP industrial profit margin, 6.4%. That was up 460 basis points. That does point to cost control, cost containment, cost cutting at the company under Larry Culp. You can see it's advancing even more right now as the stock. They did reduce GE's industrial leverage, guys. Overall, I guess there was the sense coming into this year that this would be a key inflection point, 2020, and nothing dissuades anybody from that belief, given these fourth quarter numbers. The idea that at least power, they've gotten their arms around it, particularly gas, which is really the important component there. They can move on to focus on renewables. These lean principles that Culp has been pushing in terms of a lean workforce, the change in the culture, more transparency. It seems to be coming through here, at least in terms of the numbers. And what you always want to look at is earnings and cash, and they're getting closer. They're getting closer. Because for a long time you had these reported earnings numbers, but then you had a cash number that was nowhere near it. And that was always a tell, Jim. I mean, it's easy to say in retrospect.
Yeah, when you talk to Larry Culp, the CEO, you realize you're talking to the CEO of an industrial company. Now, I know for people at home that sounds ridiculous. The GE must have been an industrial company. No, GE was some company that had a very bizarre method of reporting that was, frankly, unbelievably good at disguising and camouflaging how bad business is. So now, last year was a year where we got business under control. This is a year where when you see the numbers, they're like reported numbers. You can do apples to apples to United Technologies,
right?
To a Honeywell. And it shows that the company's not doing nearly as bad. Unfortunately, the strongest division besides aviation is the one they're selling to Danaher. But fortunately, power is no longer a black hole because power's been shrunk. And there's still lots of areas around the world, like in India, where Larry Culp just came from, where you do have a demand for power.
Yep.
This country is no longer the big driver. Alstom, that disaster seems to be gone. The Baker Hughes disaster seems to be gone.
Stabilized power.
Right.
It's not as though it's going to be growing.
But it's small.
Way. And as something you always say, they do seem to be focused on under-promising, and over-delivering. Aviation, of course, is still the jewel.
Right.
Revenues were up 6%, orders up 22%, 19 over 18.
Right.
Although they're getting hurt like everybody by the MAX.
Yes, but they do have very good service revenue, obviously, from aviation. I think there's two things that I like about this quarter. One is that I understood the financials, which I took a year of accounting, but I've never been able to understand GE's because I never took Ledger to Mon accounting.
And Jim,
I never took folk accounting.
I'm so glad you said that because that's people always. Nobody could understand.
No,
really, you couldn't.
Well, that was important. Plus, the regulators couldn't. The accountants could because they were part of the what I regard as being the destruction of Great American company. The SEC didn't because the SEC wasn't used to those terms either.
Yeah.
But the main thing, David, that I like about this is there's a fella. It's a fella who was approaching this thing as Moby Dick. And that man's name is Tusa.
So you're looking for Tusa capitulation here?
He's Captain Ahab. He's fictional. I like facts.